Okay, why would I, now, depending upon how I transfer it, the kind of control I give up typically is of one of three types in licensing. One type is exclusive control. I give you an exclusive license across the board. You now have the ability to do everything I can do. I retain nothing other than the ownership of it, and as long as you pay me, you keep that exclusive, or as long as you hit your milestones or your minimum payments, whatever it is, the conditions I put on it, you keep the exclusive. A second kind of licensing is sole licensing. That means I give you an exclusive, but I retain the right to use it myself. Why would I retain the right to use it myself? Maybe I want to keep on doing research and I want to keep the license to do that. Maybe I need a second source. I'm going to sell it into the aircraft industry. It's a syntactic foam. It's avionics box or something, and they say to me, well, we'd like to buy it from you, but if your factory burns down, we're out of luck, so we need a second source. So I license it to somebody else to make to some extent so that we can both be in the marketplace, and now I can sell it. Or maybe I want to go into, I want to keep it for in-house use, and I keep a sole license for that. The final kind of licensing is non-exclusive licensing. That means I license it to you, but whatever terms I give you, I may give to the next person or anybody else. So you can license it that way as well. Now again, we can slice and dice these up in time, geography, all sorts of things, however we want to do it. The other factor in the dominant design, the other factor rather in licensing is the dominant design. Recall that we discussed dominant designs earlier. That was our dugout canoe. You hit this sort of break point where you say, we know what a dugout canoe is. Now we can begin to think about how we make it faster, better, cheaper. And so somebody comes up with the idea of pouring coals in. So that's a dominant design. The dominant design being the feature and functionalities that make a dugout canoe. Okay, now, if I have a dominant design, it makes sense to license because I can hedge my risk in terms of that probability distribution on market risk. So from a stability of dominant design, it makes sense to license where a dominant design is emerging. So from the licensee's standpoint, they're trying to get to the market fast, or where it's already emerged and it's stable because the licensee is at the point of saying, wow, I got to play catch up and I can go in and license your stuff and get there faster. So that gives us an idea of how the dominant design plays into licensing. Finally, to close out this session on licensing, how do I get my money? I get my money in two ways, typically in licensing: upfront fees and running royalties. Remember in our formulas, the Y, meaning the added value that I give, or if it's a new product, all the value, and the F, the savings for manufacturing. That value, I'm going to capture a piece of that. And I'm going to capture that piece over a period of time. If I capture it over a period of time, that's called running royalties. Typically on products, we capture it on the basis of net sales. We capture some percentage of the net sales that's equivalent to our contribution to the total value of the product that's being sold, because even if we give a technology that allows a new product to be introduced, you still have to make it, manufacture it, support it. There's all these other things that go into the value of that product. Or so that's net sales, which is sales minus discounts and returns. Nice thing about net sales licensing is it's simple. You say, give me the revenue sheet, it's an audited revenue statement, okay, boom, I know how much I'm supposed to get, I get this percentage of it. The other way you license it typically is gross profit, which is you take the net sales minus the cost of goods sold, you get gross profit. That reflects the process savings. I'm going to take a piece of that, so I'm going to take a chunk out of the gross profit. If you license my technology, your gross profit should go up, so you can give me a piece of it, and that value I take over time. Taking it over time, as I said before, is called running royalties. Upfront fees are different. That's what I get for doing the deal. I get it initially. You don't always get an upfront fee. When do upfront fees make sense? Two situations. One is you want to ensure they're going to go to market. If they have to pay some money up front, they're likely to go to market with the technology. You can also, by the way, ensure that they move forward or help ensure they move forward by having minimum royalty payments that are due every so often, or milestones in the case of an exclusive license or a sole license, where if they don't hit a milestone, they don't finish the product development, they don't introduce it at a certain time, they lose the right to have an exclusive or a sole and it goes to a non-exclusive, or they may lose the license altogether. Anyways, how do I calculate what that upfront fee should be? Well, part of it's just a power and a negotiating thing. The other way to think of it is, remember the discount rate? If my technology reduces the risk of the licensee because I am giving them some know-how and some insight in how to get to the market faster, that means the time value of money is greater, of those running royalties discounted to the future. That number is large, or of the revenues rather, or the savings over the period of the technology's life, discounted to the future is larger because the discount rate is lower. That increment should be, some of that increment, that larger, should be what is my upfront fee, and then we're into a power discussion. Well, that's my brief introduction into licensing. I've covered a lot of terrain. What I'm going to do is try and cover the similar kind of terrain in talking about the other modes, so you get an idea of the difference between them and how to start to think about them. And I'll see you next time.